Hi, I'm Spiro with SP Wood Art, and thank you for joining me. I hope you have already subscribed. If not, please feel free to do so. If you have, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And just a note out there to all my subscribers, thank you very much. And I hope you continue watching my videos each week. In this video, I'm going to try my hand at a Bud Vase, or a weed pot, some call it. I haven't looked this up, but I think there's a difference between a weed pot and a Bud Vase. Bud Vases, I think you can actually put water in them and have live plants or a flower, whereas a weed pot is for dead plants. Or fake plants. I'm not sure. I guess I'll add that to my Google list. Now that I have my sliding miter saw back up and running, I'm going to cut this piece of ash wood that is 4 by 4 and about 9 inches long. Then I'll just mark the centers of each end. Next I'm going to try out my newly made ash Carver's mallet for the first time, and I'll probably put a bunch of dings in it. And if you want to see how I made this mallet, you can check out my last week's video. Well, it's not so bad. A few marks on there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot to come over the years, but it's actually pretty nice to use. Very comfortable. The weight is good, and it's less bulkier than my dead blow. Now I'll mount my blank to my lathe between centers, and then I'm going to use a square carbide cutter to just true it up. I'm probably running at about 900 to 1000 RPMs right now, and it's still a little wobbly because it's not trued up yet. So as it becomes a little bit more round, I'll increase the lathe speed to probably about 1200 to 1400. I probably should have cut the corners off to make things easier and to make things easier on my lathe motor, but I was just so anxious to start turning, so I foregoed that and just went right to the turning. Next I'll switch over to a round carbide cutter and start shaping the top profile where the top of the Bud Vase will be. Now I know you can't see this yet, but I have envisioned an hourglass shape with a pedestal, more of a longer neck on the top, and the lip at the top will kind of flare. Next, I didn't show it here, but I made a tenon on the bottom and put it into my 4-jaw scroll chuck. And next I'm going to start trying to drill the hole for the glass insert, which ought to be really fun. So the rim of the glass is about 1.1 inches, and there's kind of a taper on the glass from the top to the bottom, and it's about 0.8 down to 0.8 and some change less. It's a slight taper, and I happen to have a drill bit here that will be a nice length. It'll be about 3.8 inches long. The drill bit is 0.995 in diameter in inches, and this particular drill bit, I don't remember where I even bought it from, but it has no markings on it, so I just had to measure the width of it. So the hole will end up being a little bit bigger than the glass tube on the thickest part of the glass tube. And that's okay if it moves around a little bit. It's probably easier to get the glass tube in and out if it's a little room in there. And the reason why I didn't use my drill press to drill the hole is I wanted to turn the outside and have the inside still solid for support. As if I used my drill press and drilled the hole first, it'll be a little bit weaker around the edge when I'm working on the outside of the vase. You also want to make sure when you're turning the outside of the vase first, before you drill the hole, that you don't turn down too far and then drill the hole in, and then the top of your vase will just fall off. Then once I'm finished drilling the hole to the proper depth, I'll remove my Jacob's chuck and the drill bit. Then I'll start shaping the top of the Bud vase with my square carbide cutter again. And I'm also going to round over the inside of the hole. That way most of the glass will sit down farther in the hole and less will be showing when you look at the vase head on. And here I'm just using the side of the bar to check that the top is flat. Then I'll use a cone live center and bring my tailstock up to give some added support on the Bud vase. Then I'll work on the profile some more, on elongating the neck and getting a better shape on the bottom and producing a footer for the Bud vase to sit on. And this is the part of turning that I really love, that I can just sit there and sculpt and take my time and try to create my vision. Here I'm using a small 1/8 inch round nose scraper to make a cleaner transition between the base of the vase and the footer. This is one of my micro lathe tools and they come in handy at times. Next I'll go back to doing a little bit more profile cutting and I'll finish that up and move on to some wonderful sanding. I started with a 100 grit sandpaper and worked my way up to a 800 grit for this project. And you may ask why I've gone up to 800, and that's because I really wanted to have the surface as smooth as possible to not let a lot of the finish soak into the wood. I'm just trying to keep the wood generally a lighter color. Here I'm just going to clean up some of the residue and sanding dust with some alcohol, rubbing alcohol, and it's like 91% alcohol, so there's very little water in it. Then I'll switch over to sanding the top of the Bud vase, and I'll try to get into the hole as far as I can. I even tried to go as far as using a dowel and wrapping some sandpaper on it, but it didn't work very well, so I just did the best I can. I'm sure this would work if I glued some sandpaper to a dowel, but I wasn't that crazy about sanding the inside. It's going to have the glass tube in it anyway, so you're not going to really see it that much. Now I've chosen to use a friction polish for the finish, and it is equal parts of boiled linseed oil, non-wax shellac, and some denatured alcohol. So after I put on the first application of finish, I decided that the profile still needed something, and right there where the footer meets the base of the vase, I'm going to make that a sharper transition and put a burn line in there, and this I think will help to unify the piece better. Unfortunately, I seem to forget where the camera is and block the view, so you can't see what I'm burning, but I can show you the results. And once again, I'll be applying the finish, and this will be the last time, and I'll add a couple of coats of this friction polish, and then I'll use a dry paper towel, turn up the lathe speed to about 2000 RPMs, and slowly heat and burn off the alcohol and dry the friction polish. Then I'll let it wait for about a day, and then I'll come back and add another coat. Also, I added some of the friction polish to the inside of the vase. Here we are a day later, and I'm applying some more friction polish. Next, I'll need to remove the tenon on the end of the vase. I didn't want to part it off. I like to save every inch of wood, I guess. And to remove the tenon, I'm going to use my favorite Daisuke saw. And lastly, I will use a power sander to finish up the bottom, and then I'll mark it with my name, date, and type of wood.